Thank you, Yes to Love. Appreciate that song. And I hope that all of you know they were singing that to you. Because you are beautiful. And each of us is beautiful in our own way. And I hope we can recognize that and embrace that. Because we are each expressions of the one power, one presence, that divine, that we call by many names. So I'm continuing the series today on open communication, because as we communicate, as we stay open with one another, we learn to grow. And so today we get to grow in the area of prejudices and sin. Woohoo! Doesn't that sound exciting? I'm so glad you all are here for this. I didn't think anybody would come with this title. So, did you listen to the opening song that they had? You have to be carefully taught. And if you know that story in South Pacific, this was a white serviceman and a Polynesian woman that were falling in love. And you know, what would all the people say? They're going to say, no, this can't be. But you can be taught to go past that prejudice. To go past that form where people say, you have to stay with your own. That's not somebody like you. I want to kind of flip this talk just a little bit because you expect me to talk about all these different diversities, right? And I want to look at what prejudice we have inside ourselves. Because that can really hinder. A life is always lived from the inside out. And if we hinder ourselves, if we don't love ourselves, guess what? We're not going to be able to love other people. We're not going to be able to show up and to be there for them if we're running from ourselves. And so, at some point, we get to choose to be still, to go within, to find our connection with the divine within. When I define prejudice, I looked at the dictionary and it said it could be a noun or it could be a verb. So if it's a noun, it says it's a preconceived opinion that's not based on reason or actual experience. That means, reflecting back to our song, you have to be carefully taught. Your family teaches you. Your teachers at an early age teach you, this is what's right, this is what's wrong. This is how you behave in this family. This is how you operate in this community. And we learn that, don't we? We learn it very well. And now, as adults, we get to reteach ourselves what is our truth? What comes from within us? Do we really have to be so walled off from other people? Or can we open that and allow other people in? And that might be a real challenge for some people. Another way to define prejudice is as a verb. And as a verb, it means to make biased. Like the statement might prejudice the jury. Or another verb would be to cause harm. This could prejudice her chances of victory. So do we prejudice ourselves by giving ourselves messages that are not really our truth? Another way to define prejudice is an unfair feeling of dislike for a person or a group of people because of race, sex, religion, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status. You name it. Whatever it is that creates that them and us philosophy. Something that separates us. So let me humble myself a little bit and tell you that for years, I was prejudiced against myself. I could not accept myself because I knew I was different from my family. And actually, I was very shamed by my family because I was different. You see, I had two older brothers who were both basketball stars. Sports was very important in my family. Very important. And I was not the sports person. My sister was a straight A student. She was beautiful. I used to iron her hair. Back in the day, the 60s, when women ironed their long hair, she would lay down with her head on the ironing board and she would have me iron her hair. And my basketball playing brothers, they weren't about to mess with her hair, but I got to do that. And so my family would say, you know, you're not athletic like your brothers. You're not beautiful and smart like your sister. You better figure out a way that you're going to pay to go to college. Because that was a rule in our family. You will go to college. And my parents had 6 kids. My father was a school teacher. My mother didn't work once she started having babies. And so she was a stay-at-home mom. And we didn't have a lot of money. So I had to find ways to pay for my college because that was an expectation of the family. You will go to college. This is what you will do. And you will get married. And you will not get married until after you finish college. And I was a good little soldier boy. I was already the black sheep of the family because I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do. I wasn't playing sports. Oh, I tried basketball in junior high. And you know, during one of the tryouts, when it was over, I stepped into the shower. And as I stepped into the shower, a friend of mine behind me pushed me. And the floor was slick, and I went sliding as one unit across the shower. I hit the wall and fell backwards and knocked myself out. I woke up in the hospital with a concussion, and that kind of ended my basketball career. Well, let's try gymnastics. And so I was doing gymnastics. Well, you would go running across the gym, you would bounce on this little bitty trampoline, thank you, and then, you know, arch in the air, and then you tuck your head and you roll on the mat. Well, I didn't trust myself or life, and every time I did it, I would, as I was supposed to tuck my head, I would look up to see what was going on, and so I would hit my head and fall backwards. I collapsed my throat and couldn't breathe, and knocked the wind out of me several times. I was a slow learner. So I just wasn't athletic. What was I going to do? I'm trying to decide if I should tell you this or not. I was born a month premature, so I was always very small, and they nicknamed me Tiny. So everybody in my hometown knew me as Tiny. Tiny, the unathletic one. And I just didn't fit in. By 3rd grade, you know, I was having issues and I started gaining weight. All of a sudden I wasn't tiny anymore. So that's a whole other story. But I wasn't what my family expected. I didn't fit in. I didn't fit their mold. So my family, I would say, wasn't very kind to me because they really had tried to teach me this is what you need to do in life. And I wasn't there. It just didn't work for me. And they didn't want to accept me for who I was and my unique abilities. I was in drama club, can you believe that? In high school. One time my father came to the play that I was in. And I don't remember what the play was, but I was some gangster or something that broke into the house and was going to rape this woman. Right up my alley. And so I come out on stage and I'm, you know, doing my little thing and I push her down on the couch and I had, you know, makeup on to look like a scruffy beard and all this. And my dad yells out, "That's my son?" I was like, oh my God. I didn't want him to be here. And here he is and he says this. It was just amazing. I've had an amazing life. I love my family. And I've learned to love them more. I didn't love them so much for a long time. But they're interesting. So the point is, I didn't meet their mold. But I've learned to accept myself now. For years, I didn't accept myself. I was gay. Now, Here's another thing. Try to go tell your family that you're gay when your father's name is Gay. His name was Galen, Galen, and everybody called him Gay. So it's like, well, he's gay, but I'm gay. And they're like, no, you're tiny. No, I'm gay. It's very, very confusing. So let's fast forward. I didn't fit the mold. And here is what I love. Oscar Wilde, I think he might have been gay. He said, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. And I love that. You know, we each show up as our own uniqueness in life. And if we can't embrace that, then we're keeping what we have to give from the world. And we each have something to give. So be ourselves. In the Science of Mind textbook, on page 263, Ernest Holmes is talking about how we need to understand our oneness with the universe, our oneness with all that is. And so Ernest says that divine has not incarnated in anyone else just the same as any other individual, as it has in me. I am unique and forever individualized. Amen. Therefore, I do not need to imitate anyone or to long for the good that belongs to another. I can tell you, for years, I wanted to imitate other people because they were the ones that were acceptable. They were the ones that people liked. I wasn't so hep on being my unique individual self when nobody liked me, when everybody told me that I was wrong, that I was going to hell, that I was bad. And so it was hard for me to accept that. Ernest goes on and says, I do not compete with anyone, for I am and remain forever myself. Woohoo! All right. That can preach. I can do that. I can be myself when I allow myself to have my own uniqueness come through. When I allow myself to be who I truly am. Be myself, for everybody else is taken. And so you know what? Sometimes we don't have to be the same little candle or the same little flame as everybody else. We can be our own unique flame. We can have our own color, our own warmth, our own depth, our own experience of life. And that's good, because that's what creates that rich tapestry of life for all of us to enjoy. And if we can get past what we were taught as children, to stick with your own, and we can get past and we can embrace different ways of living, different people, different religions, different skin colors, different languages, how much richer would our life be? How much richer is our life? I talked to a lady from our congregation that was in one of the classes this week, and she said, you know, everybody thinks I'm white. And I thought, okay. And she said, I'm half Mexican. And you know what? I can speak fluent Spanish. And so when I'm in the store, she said, I had this experience. I was in the store, and I was checking this family out. And it was a male and female, and they were coming through the line, and the lady was speaking in Spanish. And she was saying, tell this girl to hurry up. She is so slow. Oh my God, I can't believe she's working here. And so she went through all of this, and the woman was listening and, hearing what she was saying in Spanish and didn't respond. She did her thing and was very kind to him. And then once they went to pay the bill, the girl said, in Spanish, and have a nice day. And the woman realized she knew everything that she had just said about her. And she said to the husband, hurry up and get out of here. She knows what I said. How many times do we do that kind of thing in life? And it shows our prejudice, either prejudice against ourselves or against somebody else because they're different than us. So we need to be able to be ourselves, to be the unique expressions of spirit. There's a quote that I heard several years ago. It says, comparison is the death of joy. Have you ever had that experience where you are just so joyous about something going on, and then you turned and you looked at somebody beside you and you started comparing your experience to them, and it's like, oh, well, that's better than what I have. Comparison is the death of joy. Live your unique truth. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing. We need to each be ourselves, be authentic in what we're doing. And so I looked on the internet for different things that authentic people do. And I have to say, I love this picture of this lady because she's being authentic. She loves her glasses. And doesn't that just bring you some joy? It does me. Be unique. So people who are authentic, who live from their center, from their core, here's a few of the things that are similar in all of them. They never apply advice given without consulting their inner guide. So they always go within to see, is this right? Is this my truth? Can I accept this? They're driven to action by their inner motor, not by outer triggers. So we're living life from the inside out, from the love, from the joy, from the peace that's within us, outward to the world. Authentic people wish for people to grow and reveal their unlimited selves. We want people to improve their lives. We want them to be able to be excited about what's going on each day and what they have to offer. And finally here, authentic people see their interconnectedness with all of life. Do you know that you're connected with everybody around you? I could feel that connection yesterday as we hiked through the canyon. As we saw the trees and the rocks and listened to the creek coming by, we saw little crawfish in the water. We're like, oh my gosh, look, there's a crawfish. I didn't know they were up here. It's amazing. How fun was that? So living our authentic self allows us to have a much richer, a much fuller life. Unless we tell ourselves that we have sinned. Next slide. Sins in the Bible. Isaiah 59:2 says sin is what separates us from God. So what I want to tell you is in our philosophy, there is no such thing as sin. When I looked at this title, Prejudices and Sin, I'm thinking, wait a minute. We don't believe in being prejudiced, and we don't believe in sin. What am I going to talk about? Ernest Holmes, our founder, says, sin, there is no sin, simply missing the mark. So missing the mark is an archery term. And in archery, when you shoot at the target, sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. Well, I can imagine in my mind that an archer, if they miss the mark, if they miss the target, what are they going to do? They're going to assess, well, is the wind blowing and do I need to make adjustment for the wind? Is the target further away or closer than what I thought? So I need to adjust the angle of my bow and arrow. Do I need to pull back harder on the string or not as hard to get it right to the mark where I'm trying to go? When the archer misses the mark, they don't hang their head in shame and say, I'll never be an archer, and walk away. They do the ancient spiritual practice that's very powerful of introspection, figuring out what they have done wrong, and then how are they going to adjust that to make the right move, to be able to hit their target. And so we get to do that in life. When we err, when we make mistakes, we can say, whew, that didn't work out too good. Guess I can try something different. And so we make another choice. I didn't learn that growing up. What I learned growing up is once you made a choice, my mother would say, you made your bed, lie in it. It's like, thank you, that's really helpful. There was nothing about growing, nothing about learning, experiencing something different in life. And so that's one of the freeing things, one of many freeing things, that have helped me change my life with this philosophy, is knowing that when I miss the mark, I can make another choice. I don't have to be stuck with that. I can make another choice. And we do that in so many different ways. Ernest says, we are not punished by our sins, but for them. That's okay, I think I got ahead of myself. But that's all right. So here's his quote. We're not punished for our mistakes, but by them. So I wonder, what does that mean, that we are punished by our mistakes? Well, you see, God is not in heaven. Newsflash. We don't believe in the God out there. God is everywhere, and it's inside us. And it reveals itself as we allow it to come forth in our lives. And as we do that, life is wonderful. So what does it mean that we're punished by our mistakes? You can go back to the previous slide, because it took me a while to find that picture. I want to tell you the story about the magic lamp here. There was a man that walks into a restaurant with an ostrich. He sits down and the waitress comes over and he says, I'll have a hamburger, fries, and a Coke. He turns to the ostrich, what's your order? And the ostrich says, I'll have the same. Now I started reading this story and thought, well, there's a damn speaking ostrich. I don't think that was part of the story. A short time later, the waitress comes back. She says, that'll be $6.40, please. The man reaches in his pocket, pulls out the exact change, lays it on the table, and she picks it up and walks away. The next day, the man comes in with the ostrich. He says, I'll have a grilled cheese sandwich, potato salad, and a Coke. He looks at the ostrich says, I'll have the same. The waitress comes back, delivers the order, and then comes back to pick up the money. She says, that'll be $5.10. The man again reaches in his pocket, without looking, puts the money on the table, and it's the exact change. The third evening, he walks into the restaurant with the ostrich. And he says, I'll have a steak, baked potato, salad, and, oh yeah, give me a Coke. And he looks at the ostrich, and the ostrich says, same for me. The waitress delivers the food, and when she comes back to collect the money, she says, that'll be $20.62. The man reaches in his pocket, pulls out his money, puts it on the table, doesn't look at it, and it's the exact change. The waitress can't stand it. She says, I have to ask you, how can you always reach in your pocket, pull out the exact amount of money that you need without even looking at it? And he said, oh, well, you see, several years ago, I found this old lamp. And so I thought it looked really nice, but if I polished it, it would be even prettier. So he polished the lamp, and a genie appeared. Don't we all want to find this lamp? The genie appeared, and the genie said, you have 2 wishes. And so the man said, I thought about it, and I wished that whenever I had to pay for something, I would just put my hand in my pocket. The exact change would be there. I would pull it out and not even have to worry about it. I always had the exact change that I needed. And the woman says, oh, that's brilliant. Most people would ask for $1 million. Something like that. But this way, you're as rich as you need to be. And the man chuckled and he said, yes. It doesn't matter if I'm buying a Coke or I'm buying a Rolls Royce. The exact amount of money is always in my pocket, whatever I need. She said, that's great. So let me ask you, what's with the ostrich? And he said, oh, well, my second wish wasn't as well thought out. I just wished for a chick with long legs. So we are punished by our mistakes, not for them, but by them. Can you see the punishment there? His wish wasn't well thought out, so now he's leading this ostrich around. Sometimes we have an ostrich in our life. Maybe we should make a different choice. Life can be fun if we allow it to be. If we make a mistake, we get to make a new choice. We get to try something different. So pay attention this week when you're walking through life to see if you feel separate from your source, from God. Are you separated? Is that something that's keeping you from this? Remember, everything is beautiful in its own way. And you have to be carefully taught to remove any prejudices, anything that keeps you from loving yourself or other people. And as you remove those prejudices, as you unify yourself with Spirit, with the divine, with the love that is, your life will be beautiful. And others will see that in you. Namaste. Let us pray. I know that there is one power, one Spirit, and it is everywhere present. It is right here in this very room. It is emanating from each one of us, for we are each unique expressions of that divine. And I know for each of us that we move past our prejudice of ourselves and of people who are different from us. We move to a place of love, of understanding, of peace, and of joy. And as we move in consciousness to that new place, our lives unfold perfectly. They are wonderful. And everyone around us is blessed because we share that consciousness with the world. I know it for each one of us here, and I know that it guides us as we move from this place today. I release my word, and together we say, and so it is.